welcome to the 2021 Migrant and Refugee Poetry Competition, Malaysia. I'm Sharmila Ganesan. I'm very happy to be your MC today. I'm a presenter with BFM 89.9, and I've been covering the culture scene here for quite a while. And I must say, this is really one of my favorite literary events every year. So the Migrant and Refugee Poetry Competition is really a unique poetry competition, and it does two very important things. It provides a platform for mutual understanding between Malaysians and migrants, while also celebrating the literary talents of migrant workers and refugees who are here in Malaysia. So the event promotes greater tolerance of multiculturalism. It gives a voice to refugees and foreign workers. This is the 6th year of this event, and even though it's happening online this time, we're still very happy that we can continue sharing the stories and words of these wonderful poets. So before we start, I'd like to introduce you to Ina Khalil Lim, who volunteers as a coordinator in Malaysia. She'll be sharing a little bit about the competition.
Hello and welcome to the 2021 Migrant Worker and Refugee Poetry Competition. My name is Ina Khalil Lim, and on behalf of the organizers in Malaysia and Singapore, we welcome you to today's recitals of the shortlisted poems in this year's competition. Since 2015, we have had the privilege to showcase talented poets from the junior and adult category. In today's presentation, our second virtual event, we will explore diverse sets of themes through our poets' eyes that all share the unifying thread of humanity. We hope you will enjoy today's competition and share them with as many people as you can across the world so that together we can build a better tomorrow. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to express our sincerest thanks and gratitude to the Canadian High Commission in Malaysia for their continued support of this event, as well as to our supporting partners, Thinkraw, The Good Shop, and the Global Migrant Festival. Without further ado, let's listen to our recitals. Thank you so much.
Now, before we get to the poetry readings by the finalists, we'd like to give a huge thank you to our supporting partners, the High Commission of Canada in Malaysia, Thinkraw, and the Good Shop Malaysia. Here are a few words from Ms. Esther Van Ness, the Acting High Commissioner at the High Commission of Canada in Malaysia.
Selamat pagi, ladies and gentlemen. The Canadian High Commission is very pleased to once again be supporting this year's Migrant Worker and Refugee Poetry Festival. This is an event we have supported happily for several years. As a Canadian, I come from a country of immigrants. Over 20% of all Canadians were born in other countries, including my own parents. And we expect to welcome over 400,000 new immigrants this year, including over 60,000 refugees. While the experience of a new immigrant or refugee coming to another country is not without its challenges, I have seen firsthand their resilience and ingenuity, as well as the enormous contributions that they make to a society. In Canada, immigrants have contributed to building a multicultural and diverse and thriving society. Diversity is our strength. The contribution of immigrants and refugees is reflected in higher rates of entrepreneurship and economic growth, better social cohesion, greater creativity and innovation, and some of the world's best, most varied international cuisine and international sharing of cultures. Malaysia, like Canada, is a diverse and multicultural society. It has been built on waves of immigration from China, India, and elsewhere in Asia. In addition, at this point, we know that between 4 and 6 million migrant workers and nearly 180,000 UNHCR registered asylum seekers, including 100,000 or more Rohingya asylum seekers, call Malaysia their temporary home. Migrants and refugees in Malaysia are often the people performing difficult and dangerous jobs, but they are nevertheless fundamental to Malaysia's economic development and its functioning as a society. They are the ones building the skyscrapers, working as security guards, selling groceries in the markets, or serving nasi lemak at the mamak stall. But despite their economic contributions and their contributions to Malaysian society, refugees and migrant workers here often face bias and xenophobia, stemming really from a lack of understanding of the circumstances that led led them to seek a better life in Malaysia. Too often, migrant workers and refugees are treated as merely cogs or inputs into an economic machine, without a greater realization of who they are and what they can contribute. But we know that migrants and refugees have their own stories to tell. They have their own families, their own backgrounds, their own cultures, their own knowledge and talents, and which they are able to share. They are often writers, artists, and poets. And of course, they have their own hopes and aspirations for the future. Since 2015, the Migrant Worker and Refugee Poetry Competition has provided an important platform meant to build mutual understanding between Malaysians and migrant workers and refugee communities, while celebrating their literary talents and giving a platform for the sharing of ideas and really recognizing our common humanity. It's the hope of the Canadian High Commission that an event like this, which showcases the literary talents of migrant workers and refugees, will serve as a platform to promote multiculturalism and diversity, to build a mutual understanding between the migrant and host communities in Malaysia, and importantly, to give voice to refugees and migrant workers who might not otherwise have the opportunity to share their talents and their stories. This event will give us the privilege of hearing the works of several of our shortlisted poets. Having participated in this event in the past, I am really looking forward to hearing this. I know that there's just an amazing amount of talent in this country in different communities. Many thanks to all of this year's festival participants. Special congratulations to the shortlisted finalists. And of course, also a heartfelt thanks to the organizers of the festival, who really put such an effort into trying to build this important bridge in Malaysia. On behalf of the Canadian High Commission, I'm Canada's Acting High Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Estevannes. And we'd also like to express our appreciation to all the migrant worker and refugee organizations and schools in Malaysia. Thank you so much for continuously supporting the migrant worker and refugee community. You are doing such important work. Now I'd like to introduce you to a very important group of people, our judges. So these three have had the difficult job of singling out the winners from 84 submissions. So our first judge, Carol Leon, is Associate Professor of English at the Department of English, Faculty of Art and Social Sciences at University Malaya, Kuala Lumpur. She teaches post-colonial theory and literature, as well as travel writing, and her research interests are diaspora, identity, notions of place and space, as well as themes of belonging and home in contemporary literature. Next, we have Lois Yutep, who has been teaching English literature at the University of Malaya for the past 20 years. He currently also teaches the Guchin and has previously worked as a journalist and music critic in Singapore. Outside of his professional interest in English poetry and medieval English, he also takes a keen interest in environmental issues, Taoist philosophy, and practice. Finally, we have Sharon Baka, who's a freelance writer and teacher trainer. Her work has appeared in a number of Malaysian publications, including The Star, Off the Edge, Cosmo, Men's Review, Quill, Kakisani.com, and Chrome magazine. She's been the editor of several short fiction anthologies. She also organizes readings. It's a monthly event for local writers. Sharon has also taught her creative writing courses in partnership with the British Council and MPH bookstores, among others. She now teaches it in partnership with Learning Works.
Hey, good day to our judges and welcome to today's session. I just wanted to, I think today's conversation, we really just want to know a little bit more about your thoughts for the judging process. So maybe we'll start off with finding out what do you think about this year's poems?
We got quite a number of entries, and I think what struck us was the diversity of themes and emotions that were present in these poems. And themes that were very serious, very thought-provoking, and it moved us. And there were poems, especially by the junior poets, which were light and happy. And, they talk about the mother, the father, a sibling. And it's just everyday kind of things and relationships. And that, I think that diversity and that range was very nice. It made it judging very pleasurable, I would say.
Yes, I agree entirely. And you kind of feel very privileged to be reading poems by refugee and migrant workers, because these are voices that usually we don't get a chance to hear. So that always strikes me as something that is particularly important.
Yeah.
I think the judges this year, we had no difficulty choosing first two prizes in the adult refugees category, and not unanimous. I
yes,
think,
yes, it was a good
two very two very high quality poems in deciding on who the first two winners are. And we were struck by the high quality of the verse, the actual poetic form, the use of metaphor, of imagery, very strong imagery, and very tight verse most of the time. And we really enjoyed reading those two poems and talking about them.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I went much more easily this year than it sometimes does, right?
Yes, yeah.
Do we want to maybe share with the audience from the perspective of US judges what actually makes a good poem?
Yeah, for me, I think one of the most important things is honesty, that a poem comes from the poet's own lived experience rather than cliches that they've grabbed out of the air and strung together. I want to know about you and your life and, how being a migrant worker or refugee has affected you on an everyday level. I want to understand you because I don't have your experience. And so don't write to impress the judges. Write from where you really are, and maybe you can touch our hearts. So that's my first point that I'd like to make. And then secondly, I really appreciate a well-written poem. I think all of us do. We were looking at things like the skill with handling things like repetition and rhythm and images and symbolism, the things that give us pleasure about language. And I think we need to be very grateful to the translators of the poems who did an extremely good job. And in the years that I've been judging the competition, I would say this year's translations were far better than the translations that we've had in past years. And it's so important to have those translations being good. Translators are always overlooked people. They're never given proper thanks. So thank you, translators.
Yeah, I agree, Sharon, and I think the translators did a wonderful job this year. And I think what makes a good poem for me is a poem that moves me, that kind of resonates with me. And it's interesting because these entries talked about experiences which are very removed from my own. And yet the expressions of joy and sorrow and yearning and desire in these poems, they did resonate with me. And I think that is that common ground of empathy and understanding, which makes it could be a good poem or a good book or a good, whatever, any good creative piece. So I think, and I loved it that these poems spoke about the experience of the migrant and the refugee. Not only what is so dire and stark about their experiences, but also what was so the routine and the everyday also that was captured. So to me, they were good poems. Many of them were good poems.
I think, like Sharon, like Carol, I think all the judges, I think we are quite agreed on what makes a good poem. It must be something that moves you. And how does the poem move you? I would say it communicates either some ideas or an experience. Experiences, as Sharon said, which we know nothing about, but a good poem can make that experience come alive in a way that really touches the reader. I would want to beg to differ in one respect from both Sharon and Carol, in the sense that when I look at a poem, I do not want to pigeonhole the writer and say you are a refugee or a migrant worker, therefore I want to hear about your experience as a migrant worker or as a refugee. I would encourage you guys, you've been writing good poetry and communicating your emotions, your ideas, your thoughts to us in all the years that I've been a judge, and I would urge you to keep doing that in whatever way, as long as it's honest, as Sharon says, as long as it's authentic, it's your authentic voice. It doesn't matter what you were talking about. If it's honest, if it's authentic, and if it moves the reader, then it's a good poem.
Yeah, I think the one point you made there, the poems don't necessarily have to be about the experience of being a refugee or migrant. They can be about anything. Have fun,
Yeah.
If we enjoy your poem, I mean, it could be a love poem, we all know about love, but, we want to hear about your experience of love, for example, or the joy of riding a bicycle, that would make a fantastic poem. So I don't think you have to just stick to the themes that people have been writing on over all these years,
Yes. And I'm sure.
It's a good point.
Yeah, I'm sure we feel privileged. We really feel privileged to be able to share in your experience as a refugee or as a migrant worker, and that's something we treasure every time we read your poems. But just write as yourself, as a human being, whatever it is you write about.
Thank you. Now, would you be able to share with us a little bit about the winners and what made you decide on this year's winners? What was the decision process and the values that you were using to determine our winners this year?
I think this year we were quite in close agreement, weren't we, all three of us, at least on the top.
Yeah. We had the same names, even if not in the same order.
I think that's the first time, actually, in all our judging experiences.
We're getting better at this.
Well, or I think also it's probably because we did it by Zoom and we have more time.
Yeah.
There's no pressure.
Because in the live event, in the real event, we're under so much pressure to listen and to score at the same time. And I think this is a better way of. Maybe this is another advantage of using Zoom. Another good thing that COVID gave us, that we, giving more time, because then we make decisions that we're a bit more comfortable with. We're very happy with the decisions that we've made today.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Thank you so much. And I think maybe just to close off, would you have a message for our future poets?
Keep them coming.
Very good.
Keep writing.
Please realize that your words are valuable and that they need to be out in the world and they need to reach our hearts and change us. Yeah, most important thing. And I would also add one more. I would love to see our poets reading poetry, learning to understand poetry, becoming drunk on poetry, to really grow as poets. This is the thing I most would love to see.
And just to add to, thank you to all those who send in entries for taking the effort and the trouble and for submitting their entries for the competition. And it's been a joint effort by everybody, and I think it's been very successful. Thank you to all the organizers as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, thank you
so much. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, so the question is just what do you think about the event? Any thoughts that you have about the Poetry Festival, the significance of the event?
For me, I think it's an amazing event because it gives space and voice to people that usually are silenced in society, people that we don't usually hear from, and gives us a chance to see their perspective of the world, and for us to kind of come halfway as readers to meet them, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I've been involved in this event, I think, since it's the Malaysian chapter started in 2015. So it's been, 6 years now. And it's been a privilege every year. Reading poems, voices from the perspective that I myself, as a person, as an individual, will never be able to see on my own steam. So it's giving me a privileged window into another world, many different worlds, because now we've got people coming from different parts of the world, coming to Malaysia either as migrant workers, as refugees, and it's been a privilege in this respect.
I agree with Sutip. I think it's been an honor and a privilege to be part of the judging process. And I've been on the panel since the inception of this chapter in 2015. And so I just love it that it's this competition is still garnering so much responses from the different communities. And and these entries show so much promise, and they have a lot of good things and interesting things to say. So kudos to all those who participated. It's been, I repeat, it's been a privilege and an honor to be the judge, one of the judges for this competition.
On to today's highlight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to the finalists of the junior category of the 2021 Migrant and Refugee Poetry Competition, Malaysia. So the junior competition really is quite special, and this year's poems, they run the gamut from just talking about daily childhood experiences to really difficult circumstances that I think nobody should have to go through. And what I love about reading these things from the perspective of these children is the clarity of thought, the power of the words they use, and the juxtaposition, I think, of some really major challenges with a sense of hope. And reading these poems really gave me a sense of hope. I was also thoroughly impressed at how really good these poems were. So let's get to the poems themselves. First, we have Muhammad Umair, who is 11 years old. He was born in Sri Lanka, moved to Malaysia in 2019. He has an elder sister, a younger brother, and he says his hobbies are playing football and reading storybooks. Here's his poem.
Hello to my respected judges and friends. My name is Umair. Today I would like to recite a beautiful poem. I saw my friend near the fan making a beautiful sentence. She was talking to birds with a beautiful little birds. There were two new birds with looks alike. One was red and the other was pink. Then suddenly it vanished within a blink. Then I knew I was dreaming. and I went down sliding. Thank you.
Next, we have Fozan Ahmad, who is 8 years old. He came to Malaysia when he was just 4 months. He says he comes from a broken family and lives with his mother, elder sister, and younger sister. His poem is called Stars.
Hello, my name is Fozan, and this is my song. We shine bright in the moonlight. We are stars, we come in dark. They're stars night, they shine bright. They're in the sky when they're light. The stars are scared when they're dark. The stars come out and shout, hooray! Bye.
Now we have Yasmin binti Zani Alam. She's 12 years old and was born here in Malaysia. Her father is Rohingya from the Rakhine state in Myanmar, and her mother is from Indonesia. She says she has big dreams and is getting better at speaking English, and she's also a fan of the K-pop group BTS. Here's her poem titled Problems, What Problems?
Mornam Yasmin, I for Nafaris Rohingya School, I for Jum. Tak tahu masalah di sana. Keluarga bahagia, hidup lengkap. Ada ayah, ada ibu, ada adik-adik. Dapat kasih sayang, lahir di sini. Tak tahu masalah di sana. Sekian, terima kasih.
Next, Umaira Rahman, who is 12. Her father is Rohingya from Myanmar. Her mother is Indonesian. She's soft-spoken, but in school, her voice commands attention. And in school, she helps her younger students with reading and writing. She's also a fan of K-pop group Blackpink. Her poem is called Thank You, Malaysia.
Anam Umaira, umur saya 12 tahun. Tajuk sajak saya ialah Terima Kasih Orang Malaysia. Di sini bahagia, di sana bakar dan bunuh. Di sini seronok, di sana sengsara. Di sini saya selamat, di sana atau saya dibakar. Terima kasih orang Malaysia.
Now we have a poem from Sadia Matin called My Poem is a Refugee. We share the same sky, but not the same land. For while you walk freely, on paired city cometh and pretty flower fields, I sink further and further into the cursed soil on which I exhaustingly toil. But hear me, I do not let myself drown in the dirt. As weary as I am, I fight to exist through the smothering morning and the numbingly cold night. So that was the junior category. Now on to the adult refugee category. So in these poems, I found such vivid descriptions of that contrast between home and losing one's home, memories, the uprooted feeling of being in a place where you've been offered a space but may not always be welcome. Such powerful words and such important stories, I think, for all of us to listen to and hear and empathize with as we learn to share our space with those who might need them. Now, to start us off, we have Lun Nyo Haukip, who is a refugee from Myanmar who has been in Malaysia since 2010. He's a writer, also a composer, and says he's passionate about community and humanitarian work. His poem is called Run or Die, Hear Our Cries.
Run or die, hear our cries. We are pilgrims on earth. Some live with joy, others with sorrow and tears. We are sojourners with distinct intentions, yet different destinies. Have you heard Burma's history? It might be just another story, another tale, but her children have borne the brunt for generations after generations. We urge you to remember us, to sympathize with us, our shattered life, live in hunger and desperation. Is there anyone who doesn't love his nation, land, and people? Is there anyone who doesn't show any affection to his parents? Any parents who hates his children? But the enemy and the turmoil in our land have forced us to flee from our precious land, only to land in prisons, drowning which only separates child from the nursing mother, choosing death rather than living in shame and desperation. Oh, where is the heaven for the oppressed and desperate people? We sojourn in a stranger's land, covered in our shame and wounds. Yes, there will be misunderstandings, oppression, intimidation, and separation, but that is not the end. The compassion offered by a stranger is indescribable with mere words. A man of authority who honors and regards others with dignity is like an angel. Hear our cry. Let us bear one another's burden in our pilgrimage on earth.
Up next, we have a poem by Muhammad Ahmadi. Hello, Mother. We all failed. We lost our emotions in the famine. Hello, Mother. Your child has grown up, but unfortunately, your cute baby became a wolf. Mother, we became captivated by magic. He blinked and we became completely ill. Mother, close the spell of repelling evil from our temperament. Wear an amulet on our arm. O moon, we became leopards and you burned. We got the gun and you burned. Now we have Amal Haj Sleman, a spoken word poet from Syria. They have performed at various venues and open mics in both Malaysia and Singapore. They came in second at the Kuala Lumpur Poetry Slam 2019 and was crowned champion at Merdeka Raya Fest 2019. They also read in the Voices program at Georgetown Literary Festival 2019, and they've been published by Burning Press House, Over Communicate Magazine New Zealand, and Translation Migration Multilingual Poems of Movement. Their poem is called Tell Me Something Nice Before I Go to Sleep.
Tell me something nice before I go back to sleep. My tongue is a ticking bomb ready to explode with Arabic alphabet, but English has always failed me when I needed it the most. There's always a countdown when you realize I am not fluent in English. You expected the waterfall, the mouth of the Nile at the Mediterranean Sea, a syllable manipulating dance, and it is a dance. This flickering, bending, searching, turning your back on what you cannot keep up with. I contain a twisted Arabic tongue that cannot even pronounce the word entrepreneur without the strange examination of the air it took to learn it. A confession. I always use Google Translate to prove myself to a poem. I read to Edgar Allan Poe and Ahmed Matar, and I'd like to think that volume equates to knowledge, that it is not lying if I feel something. I am the kind who quotes Rumi knowing what he sacrificed for war. I too carry life between my shoulder blades, and God is just a metaphor now I use to garnish my poems. Tell me something nice. On our first date, your tongue snugged the borders of my mouth and made the accent taste like a kindred. I allowed myself to drown in promising comfort. For every time you smile, a war ends. The starless sky is inches from my face. The room expands and I am back in Damascus in one of Sham nights. Tell me something nice. The first time I kissed you, I feel like a lie in all of my past relationships. For a moment, I was the sun. Kuala Lumpur fell away around me and the night air felt like olives harvest. When you look at me, I want to spend the next eternity making up for not saying it first. I love you. I love you the way the Dead Sea loves Mount Demavend. And I, a traveler hanging on to the North Star. How you made my best days sink into my worst and my worst days turn into its best. And I know we're both in the desert, but when you left, it did not stop raining, and I had nothing that could save the water. I tried to go on without you, see. I tossed all of our memories into the ocean, but the tide kept tossing them back. I do believe that I will see you again, but we don't live long where I come from. The moon waits in my arms, wanting to come home. The most challenging part of watching you leave is that you can. Tell me something nice. I want to use the word beautiful, but God damn it, it will never do you justice. So sometimes my tongue becomes salt. Fuck all the languages. Who needs them when I have worn your hands to sleep just to keep a track of them? And I realized all this time I was at your mercy. Your tongue sharp like a mountain top. You're a cliff, but a merciful one, to let me fall inside you and decide not to kill me. Tell me something nice. You have the Persian Gulf, and I am just another Bee Gees. It's only words, and words are all I have to take your heart away. Thank you.
Next we have Amal Hashmi. She's a Form 1 student who's passionate about public speaking and has participated in many events. Her poem is called Overpowering Challenges.
A very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Amal Hashmi and I will be reciting a poem entitled Overpowering Challenges. 8 years ago, back in the year 2014, I was not too overly keen about setting foot into kindergarten for the very first time. Unlike my mom and dad, they were so charged up. We are going shopping, they suggested. One day. You'll need erasers, rulers, and lots of pencils. And the list went on and on and on. And there I was, so scared. Would anyone be my friend? Would my teacher be nice like grandma? Would I cry? For weeks, those questions kept haunting me. The day arrived and I was dreadful. I got out of bed with a fight and a scream. My mom made me my favorite breakfast, roti canai bom. My grandma handed to me my Ben 10 water bottle, and Dad snapped a picture of me all clad in uniform. Luckily, Grandpa sensed the worry on my face. He said, "You'll be fine, just don't forget to have fun, my lad." And off I went to my kindy called Little Twinkles. I wasn't lucky, like most whose moms and dads stayed on. For my mom and dad believed that me, this skinny boy, was going to be a man. So they handed me over to Miss Esther, which I found out later would be my class teacher. Out of the blue, boo-hoo-hoo, a small girl cried, and it caused a chain reaction, sobbing here, crying there, and wailing everywhere. And there was one who tried to rumble through the open gates like a frightened little chubby bear. Alas, there I was, looking as cool as a cucumber. This is not bad at all. I was not sobbing, nor was I crying. I was A-okay. I was fine. I even went to a boy who was crouching and sobbing in the corner, held his hand, and we walked to class with Miss Esther towing the line. Ladies and gentlemen, teachers and friends, how that day walked past my day into a memory, leaving just a picture. How did I wish I walked past that day, stayed home, and played with my shotguns. That day provided the assemblage of knowledge, of toys, herbs, warplanes, and even arms. How I steered forward as time stood still. I watched and rode across time. Still wide-eyed, my grandfather asked me, "How old are you?" And I beamed with gladness and said with fresh tears of joy, "I was 5 then, and now I'm 13, and I overcame my challenges." with belly up friends and running nose smiles? I am joyous of what came before me. Bring them all, and the future awaits me to start my life with ideals and grace. Thank you very much.
Now we have Ali Reza Alizada, or Benjamin. He's from Afghanistan, and with this poem hopes to convey the feeling of pain of his people. The poem is called More Tired Than Death.
خسته‌تر از مرگ، بی هویت، بی فردا، بی کشوری که دیگر ندارمش. خسته‌تر از درد، بی حس، بی زندگی، بی اشکی که دیگر ندارمش. خسته‌تر از خون، خونی توی جوی آب، خونی سرگردان و دنبال رگی که دیگر نداردش. خسته‌تر از نرمی، در قلبی فرو رفته، در سری آرامیده، در حسرت باروتی که دیگر نداردش. خسته‌تر از زجه، رها در آسمان، آزاد شده از حنجره و دنبال گلویی که دیگر نداردش. خسته‌تر از جانم، خسته‌تر از پاها، خسته‌تر از مادر، خسته از این جانها. درد میکشم هر شب، درد و خودآزاری، فکرم به کرکس‌ها، پل سرخ، مردم آزاری. بی خانه تر از بادم، بی مرزتر از رویایی که شد کابوس، خواهر آزاری. این شب‌های لیلایی، رقص کنان تیرها، بوی خون در شهر، ترس و بیخوابی‌ها. شراب جان بینی مستی ندارد جانا، مست نخواهم باشم در میان بمب و فقدان‌ها. ملودی‌های پل سرخ دیگر صدای جان دختران را نیست. چه مرگی موج میزند اینجا، دیگر فرکانسی از انسان‌ها نیست. که میلاد مرگ در کابل شادیانه ندارد دیگر. که این شعر تیر باران قافیه ندارد دیگر. که این کرکس‌های بی وجدان، که این ریش‌های اسلامی و خون مریمی تشنه مسیحا را زدن گردن. دلم آشوب فردا هست، به فکر بی‌وطن بودن، به فکر لاشخوران شهر، به فکر درد آنجایم. مزاری را فرو ریختن، بودا را فرو ریختن، این لاشخوران بی وجدان آخر خدا را هم فرو ریختن. که به خود میپیچم اینجا، که به خود میگریم اینجا. که چقدر درد دارد بازیچه شدن به دست کرکس‌ها. که این دنیای بیجایی به ما یک عمر آرامش بدهکار است. که یک خواب راحت حتی بعد از مرگ هم بدهکار است. که این مردم همه درد و که این مردم همه مرگ و فراری از خود و خانه. کجا به دنبال آشیانه، کجا می شود این بار، کجا می شود خانه. چی شد شهرم، کجاست کشور، کجاست این بار آشیانه. نه من دانم، نه تو دانی، نه اون لاشخورهای تجاوزگر. که کجا می رویم آخر، کجا می شود این بار به سر. بدون بال پروازی، بدون جان راه رفتن، بدون حس، بدون هیچ پر از تلخی و درد جنگ. نمیدانم کجا آخر شود آشیانه مادر. فقط آرزو دارم بمیرم این کرکسان شهر.
Next is Khadra Ahmad Abshir. She was born in Somalia, raised in Kenya, and moved to Kuala Lumpur in her teen years. When she's not busy teaching, she spends time connecting with and helping her fellow refugee community. This is her poem called Mogadishu Blues.
Hi, my name is Khadra. Today I'll be reading for you a poem that I wrote named Mogadishu Blues. I hope you enjoy. Mogadishu, Mogadishu, the mistress of caprice. Mogadishu, Mogadishu, memories that crease. A poet's vision written in crimson, verses of freedom needed in wisdom. A harvest of bones and broken thrones. Mogadishu blues rings true. Mogadishu's song, a mermaid forlorn. Of wounded history and sonorous heresy, incorruptible passions and divided factions. In the seed of dusk, a flute weeps. Memories of musk scarring the streets. Men were slain in these tribals of pain. Dialogues of division, voyeurs and victims, men with mission of corrupted dictums. Seasons of apathy, exodus of choice built walls of tyranny and stolen voice. The poet died, but the visions intoxicate. Politicians have lied, the truth they fabricate. But bonds of brotherhood outweigh the falsehood. Seasons of trial, youths are revolting, anthems of exile, time is molting. The conscience is shifting, may the war depart. The birds are migrating to the memory of the heart. May pangs and poverty be of the past, and maidens of authority reign at last. Bluebirds, bluebirds, souls of Mogadishu, blood will be forgiven, war forsaken. Bluebirds, bluebirds, the seeds have ripened, home is safe, the burdens have lightened. Let's be brave. Bluebirds, bluebirds, the blues will seize, away, away with ease. This is the promise of peace. Thank you.
Up next, Omar Najim from Iraq. He's also lived in Syria. He came to Malaysia when he was 10 and has been here for 11 years. He's a high school graduate with a passion for art and tech. His poem is called Home.
I do not have a home. As gloom intercepts the stars, as the sun crosses zones, the only thing I'm left with is an urge for a home. I do not have a home. It's easy to dwell and reminisce, be stuck in the nostalgia of abyss. The moment is gone when I miss, because home was never a bliss. I do not have a home. I have friends and families. I have foe and enemies. I have love and hatred, but a home is not for me. My birthplace rejects me. My residents detest me. My people question me for being on an odyssey to discover my identity. I do not need a home, for it limits where I can be. I belong to the soil. I will follow where it takes me. As the days crash into nights, and the nights shine the days, I will always remember, home is where I stay. Thank you.
So that was the adult refugee category. And now we have the migrant worker category. Now, what I found extremely interesting about these poems was how much you felt the past 2 years that all of us have been going through, but how much more impactful it is when you're a migrant worker in a country that may not always be the most friendly to you. The experiences of the pandemic, the way that the lockdowns have impacted both the work as well as the psyches and the lives of the people involved. That was one of my, I think the thing that stood out for me in this group of poems. So our first poet is Joan Santillan Amurao. She's a Filipino migrant worker based in Johor Bahru. She's been there for more than 11 years. Besides being a poet, writer, and author, she also loves drawing and painting. Her poem is called The Muted Outcries.
Mga piping palahaw. Ang mundong binabalot ng nakakakilabot na alulong ng pandemya. Mga dugong nagkalat dahil sa walang katapusang gyera ng mga nasyong hindi magkasundo sa soberanya. Patuloy din ang paglaganap ng galit ng kalikasan sa kung saan-saang panig. Saan ba ang kahantungan ng mga mamamayan na di makakatuka kung hindi kakahig? Kanino tayo makakalimos ng tulong? Maaari bang humingi sa gobyerno? Na kadalasan ay mga maiingay na latang pinagsisidlan ng pandarambong at pusong bato. Mas binibigyang importansya ang nakahatag sa ilalim ng mesa ng politiko kaysa harapin ang mga hinaing ng mga maralita. at may parangal pang natatamo. Mga isip talangka na sa liderato ay nag-uunahan. Ang nais ay pasikretong kumamal ng yaman habang nanunungkulan. Kung kaya't yaong mga hampas lupa, ang lubhang apektado at maging kaming mga migrante sa teritoryo mo. Kahirapan ang nagudyok sa amin upang makipagsapalaran at dito napunta. Kami ang mga taong madalas na nakakaranas ng pang-aalipusta. Mababang uri, yan ang ginagamit sa amin na pang-uri. Kami hindi mga kriminal. Bakit kayo nagtetengang kawali? Mga takas sa sariling bayan, mga dokumentado at iligal na dayuhang kapara. Oo, kami mga mapunyaging sampid na nagpapakapagal para kumita ng pera. Pakiusap, supili ng inyong mapanghusgang hiyaw. Pagsabihan kami at ito ay aming tatanggapin. Sa pagkakasalang di sinasadya, sana kami ay patawarin ng may pagkamaunawain. Ang aming anino ay kaalinsabay ng trapo at luha sa araw-araw. Katawan at isipang pagal mula sa maghapong trabaho na di magkamayaw. Katulad nyo din kami na nangangailangan ng pahinga. Mga tao din kami na kailangan ng makakain at pagkalinga. Sana'y marinig ninyo ang impit na iyak mula sa pang-aabuso, gaya ni na Maria at Eva na paulit-ulit ginamit at minaltrato. Walang nakakabatid ng tunay na hinaing. Kanilang kinumpiska ang pangkomunikasyon, lubhabang napakahirap na kami pagkalooban ng bahagyang konsiderasyon. Makataong turing ang aming hiling mula sa inyong lahi. Kung ito'y kalabisang hilingin, sa amin nawa ay huwag mamuhi. Ang aming dangal at puri ay huwag ninyong yarakan kung maaari. Kabawasan ba sa inyong pagkatao kung ang pangungumusta ay inyong ibabahagi? Napakaraming migrante ang pumapaimbubulog sa malalim na dagat ng depresyon. Kadalasan ay wala silang makausap at makaramay kung kaya't sila'y di nakakaahon. Nang dahil sa desperasyon, kinitilang buhay at inuwing nakakahon. Nabalitaan mo na ba na ang ilan sa mapanlinlang na mataas na gusali ay tumalon? Ang dalangin ko, 10 ng mga nakikipanuluyan sa bansang ito. Buksan ang inyong puso at kilalanin kami ng husto. Sa binubuong batas na inyong ihahain sa kalupunan, pakisulat at ipatupad din ninyo ang aming mga karapatan. Hindi ito pagkukondena kundi isang pakiusap. Ang bangis ng diskriminasyon ay patuloy naming nalalasap. Hindi namin hangad na sa inyo ay makipagkompetensya dahil para sa amin ay sapat na ang bahagyang ambon ng simpatya. Mas makakabuti kung ang takip sa inyong tenga ay tanggalin at ang piring sa inyong mga mata ay alisin upang ang aming tunay na kalagayan ay inyong mapansin. Tingin ninyo ang aming panaghoy na ibinubulong ng hangin. Ito ang boses ko. Ito ang boses ng kapwa ko. Mga piping palahaw ng dayuhang alipin sa lupa ng ninuno mo. Iba't ibang hikbi at sigaw mula sa ipininid na batingaw na matagal nang nagdanasang sumambulat ang aming mga hinaing at damdaming umaalingaw-ngaw.
Next we have Emma Eureka A. Sabado. She's from the Philippines and has been working as a domestic helper in Malaysia for nearly 2 years. She's also a part-time childcare teacher, makes educational and inspiring YouTube videos as well. She's been writing poetry since she was 9, and her poem is called The Different Forms of War and Peace.
Good day, everyone. The title of my poem is The Different Forms of War and Peace. There are different forms of war and peace. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. The loud noise is terrifying. Gunshot and explosion, deafening the souls. This war has crushed every civilian, while the groan seemed hard to be heard. The silence is so strange. Opposing forces where bullets penetrate, not minding the overflowing of blood, despite of 1,000 lamentations, hoping for the war to completely end. Is it only in dreams where we can feel the meaning of peace? There are different forms of war. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. Our surroundings are getting extremely hot. Sudden storms. The world is shaking. Volcanic eruptions, floods, and landslide. Whether on land or water, air, and even ash. A lot of bodies were drowned. Some have been covered by earthquakes and landslide. Can you even count such a disaster? If the solution lies in our own hands, there are different forms of war. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. Waking up every morning, slowly dying. The footsteps stopped. Breathing was completely blocked. Because of a pandemic that devastated the world, starvation was intensified. Pockets were pierced. Lives and dreams disappeared. Hesitation in the future prevailed. Inquisitive mind asking, when will this end? But no one really knows. This pandemic is a real setback to history. Time passed, realizing that peace also comes in different forms. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. Everyone has its own identity that symbolizes the hope and dream of our Creator. Love in one's heart must prevail and not hatred. For in every differences in colors and religions, none is superior. Everyone should be equal. It is best to choose the white flag, where each other will listen from one another. So, when repression ceases, the real fight begins. Realizing that peace also comes in different forms, I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. The world will be better if garbage were eliminated. With simple action and proper manner, the dying nature can be saved. If humans deliberate, initiative, and true concern. It's not too late. There's still time left. Plant the seed on reviving blue and green horizon, because this world is our only home that we can never replace. In the span of time traversed, realizing that war and peace comes in different forms. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it. Facing the present, there may be no certainty, but the modern ways of helping out satisfied the others through reciprocity. The modern platform is also one of the keys to convey that tomorrow is a new morning, that this pandemic will be overcome, and we can start over, stronger for a new chapter. Despite the various forms of war, fighting forces, weeping nature, and surviving against the epidemic virus, we all then realize that war and peace comes in different forms. To continue living a life amidst the future. I have witnessed it. You have witnessed it. We have witnessed it.
Now we have Christine Andaya Ventura from the Philippines. She's a mother of two, a domestic helper in Malaysia since 2016. She says her passion for writing gives her strength for her daily routine. Her poem is titled Homeless But Not Hopeless.
Homeless but not hopeless. Along the riverbanks she choosed, cardboard and trash she used. With the wicked arms but strong feet, little paradise she built. Her heart is full of determination, living alone with the stones. Only sunrise brightened her dark room, not knowing until when she will live alone. Walking barefoot on the street, begging for someone who can feed. This homeless girl, longing for love, hoping on her way she could find. With her naked eyes we can see an innocent face who lost her family. Inside of her is full of positivity that one day she could find a home where she's supposed to live. Once the dark night, thunder and lightning occurs, her little paradise washed out by the storm. Teardrops fall on the ground, but her faith was never gone. I may lose my home, but not my hope, she whispered as she breathed so deep. Behind her sorrow she smiled, like the sun that peeping through the dark clouds. Her eyes shines like rainbow, hoping for a brighter tomorrow. Once again she picks some trash and decided to rebuild her paradise. With a wicked body, she made it stronger than she could, for if one day she find her family, they have a place to sleep peacefully. This little girl was once homeless, but not hopeless.
Up next, Christian E. Comingking from the Philippines. He works as a patient care attendant in a nursing home and has been a migrant worker since 2017. His poem is called It's All About My Dream to My Mom.
Nang dahil sa pangarap ko kay Mama. Nangarap ako hindi para sa sariling interes, kundi ang hangad ko ay maiahon ang pamilyang nagtitiis. Nakita ko ang tunay na mukha ng kahirapan, kaya sa murang edad ako ay marami nang natutunan. Maraming pagsubok na ang dumating sa aking buhay, simula nang maaga kaming iniwan ni tatay. Mahirap ang buhay nang walang amang naggagabay, di katulad ng dati na may tatay kang inaantay. Namulat ako sa realidad ng buhay na magsikap. Nag-aral ako ng mabuti para sa aking magandang hinaharap. Ang hangad ko lang naman ay makabawi kay inay na nag-alaga sa amin ng walang humpay. Inay na inako ang lahat ng responsibilidad para sa kanyang mga anak. Kahit nahihirapan ay nakikita mo pa rin na siya'y humahalakhak. Inay na nagsakripisyo alagaan, mahalin at pagsilbihan kami. Walang humpay at katapusang pag-aalaga para nang kami ay mapabuti. Kaya napag-isipan kong mag-ibang bansa at mag-ibang bayan dahil sa pangarap kong maging doktor ng mamamayan. Pero sa kalaunan, ang pangarap ko na yun ay nakalimutan dahil inuna ko muna ang kanilang kapakanan. Mahirap mag-aral na di ka handa sa pinansyal dahil laman ng sikmura ay hindi pwede pabayaan. Unti-unting napag-alaman ko na ang mundo ay puno ng sakripisyo. Kailangan mo iwan at kalimutan pansamantala ang iyo. Iyo na pangarap na makapag-aral at maging doktor. Iyo na pangarap na makapasok sa magandang universidad. Iniwan ko ang lahat ng iyon at inuna kong magtrabaho dahil prioridad ko ang pamilya na sa akin ay umaasa. Maraming pagsubok sa buhay, ngayon kami ay nawalan ng tahanan. Bahay na naipundar sa isang iglap ay nawala. Sinisikap ko ngayong makapag-ipon at makapag-umpisa ng panimula. Kahit bahay ay nawasak sa isang sandali, ako pa rin ay umaasa. Kaya ngayon ako'y nandito at nakikipagsapalaran para makapag-ipon at makapagpatayo ng maliit na bahay. Simple lang naman ang hangad ko na ang mama ko'y mapasaya ko. Sandaling panahon na lang na siya'y aming makasama. Kaya lahat ng bagay gagawin ko. Isang tabi ang sarili, magsumikap at magpursige. Salamat po.
And now we have Ana Liza Lampon Pausang from the Philippines. She works as a domestic helper in Kuala Lumpur. She has 2 children, loves writing poetry, also dancing, singing, cooking, and reading. Here's her poem, Quarantine Era.
Quarantine Era. Sun rays kissed my rosy cheeks. It rains through and through very quick. Did somebody burn the place at stake? It's noontime once the clock hands kicked. It's 12 in the afternoon and I woke up so late. I sneaked through the door and stared. Nobody was in there. Why so silent and everybody where? I checked the kitchen, the garden. I just couldn't believe if I'm just dreaming. Where are they? Are they still here? Everybody was still there in their bed, still sleeping with the room dark and gloomed. Snuggle hours were so lazily prolonged, and everybody in their beds they belonged. No tragic, no crime, no traffic. Peaceful, silent, and it's perfect. Everybody quiet stayed at home and it's terrific. It's just like one clap of the hands and all were in spell of magic. At first I enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. I can do this, I can do that, what I want. I can sing, I can dance at my own hands. I can be on myself, relaxing at the same time. But wait, why I can't go out, enjoy the days and travel with my scouts? I can't see my relatives and friends in doubt. I just stayed at home with my gadgets, surfed, what those all about. Online schooling, online class, online church, online shops, online transactions, virtual laughs, in that screen of that rectangular Apple Plus. Everybody meets and connects in an app. It seemed too quiet, but literally noisy. Things were gone crazy purposely. Eating with the whole family, and guess what, at once? We were complete perfectly. Televisions were always on and proud. News here and there, everywhere, people were so loud. Hospitals, health centers were popular among the crowds, and all are started to panic, even down. Scarcity of food, water, medicine, and masks. Sanitizers, gloves, even the toilet rolls, people asked. Some were devastated, panicked, and in half crashed. Spreading of the virus were so fast. For once in a while the earth breathed, knelt down its knees, took off the wreath. It must be tired and need total rests. And silence spread all over edges and streets. People started to appreciate small things around them. Plant trees, grow seeds with the whole family tandem. Realized the importance of stretching bones and marrows were a big thing, and digging up memories those had stopped and forgotten. Appreciate body, they cleaned and exercised. Appreciate friends, they talked and apologized. Appreciate family, they hugged and eat with fries. They follow protocols and be nice. Life is precious with loved ones. Sharing happiness even at the edges of darkness. Scarcities, difficulties in these quarantine days. We beat the virus hand in hand, we succeed. Quarantine era, quarantine was like soap opera drama. A lot of things happened in this pandemic era. Everyone must follow and be responsible, man. Let's stop this line that killed a lot, but not one.
So those were all of our finalists this year. Now it's time to announce the winners. So in the junior category, the third prize winner is Umaira Rahman. Second prize for the junior category goes to Fozan Ahmad. First prize winner for the junior category goes to Muhammad Umair. And now for the refugee adult category, this year's third prize winner is Omar Najib. Second prize for the refugee adult category goes to Amal Haj Sleman. First prize for the refugee adult category goes to Ali Reza Benjamin Alizada. And now for the migrant worker category. This year's third prize winner is Anna Lisa Lampon Pausang. Second prize winner for the migrant worker category goes to Christine Andaya Ventura. First prize winner for the migrant worker category goes to Emma Eureka A. Sabalo. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you everyone for staying with us till the end of this event. We would really appreciate your continued support. You can check out the other sessions and of course not forgetting the Singapore Migrant Worker Poetry Competition that's happening on the 28th of November. To find out more about the poets as well as the event, please visit mymigrantpoetry.com. You can also find us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/mymigrantpoetry or facebook.com/SG-migrant-poetry. So follow us on Facebook, stay updated with all the latest news about the event, and of course, see you next year. I'm Sharmila Ganesan. This has been the 2021 Migrant and Refugee Poetry Competition Malaysia, and it has been a real pleasure hosting it this year. Thank you.